reading is for August 9th, which is a full moon in Aquarius, opposite of Leo. Interesting first collective reading to do, given that these readings will be tailored to the collective. And Aquarius energy is very much that, thinking about the whole. And full moons, of course, being that, what is it that we need to shed, release, let go of that no longer serves us? So always with the highest good, what message do we need to hear right now for the highest good? And so I'll shuffle, and as they fall out, I'll lay them out. And we'll see what needs to be heard. I was told 3 more, but a few more than 3 came out. So let's see what is in store, and hopefully you can see them all. And if you can't, that's all good. So for those that don't know, I am clairaudient, and so often before a reading I hear things which really informs how the reading will go. And so I keep hearing why, and which gives me a sense that we're really struggling collectively to really understand how to settle into uncertainty, how to walk this path, how to sit with the present, let things unfold. And yet there's a great opportunity with this full moon. In the upright, this card here is a woman who's very much self-victimized. She can break free from this toilet paper roll, so to speak. And yet she's very much surrounded by the swords, the things that cut her, so to speak. And yet in the reverse, we see that there's an appetite maybe from stepping outside of these bondages, the things that we self-harm with. Maybe it's holding ourselves, surrounding ourselves with perhaps the things that people have done to us, harmed us with their words, and yet we somehow do it to ourselves now. But there is a moving away from this, and yet there is this indecision. And so when the card comes out on the upright or on the side like this, I like to read it as oscillating, neither upright or reversed, but kind of like sometimes both. And so it kind of creates these, herein lies, I think, oftentimes the old pattern, so to speak, right? And so in the upright, this is someone who is fulfilling their life wishes, who are getting all their 10 cups, the happily ever after, the family. And so there's this appetite, deep appetite for everything that we want, and then other moments feeling like we're so far from it, forgetting what the end goal is, almost losing sight of the not only the destination but the journey itself. And yet it's through this kind of indecision, that it's through this exploration, so to speak, of what's working and what's not working, or being blind to the path forward, and then at times perhaps seeing it ever so clearly, that we're able to move past perhaps some of this collective conflict, settling for, the cups we have as opposed to the one that's being offered. And it's really asking us in this Leo period to step into our confidence, to start to see that, the road is paved ahead, that there are avenues to explore. Now, I think the hiccup here is thinking, but can I really move on from the Eight of Cups? Can I really seek what I want? Can I go after the other two so that I can have my happily ever after? Because this card in the upright is someone who is moving on from their Eight of Cups to seek out the two, to have the perfect 10, and is very much guided by intuition and the movements or the phases of the moon. And yet here in the reverse, it's like almost second guessing, getting in our way again. But there's a movement towards, no longer focusing on the spilt kind of milk, but seeing these two cups. And so it's not asking us to stay so, it's not asking us to have the Virgo energy of the fall, where we kind of start to nestle into autumn and start to go within and step away from kind of the sun to kind of have that little hibernation period. In fact, it's not even asking us to see where we don't, but rather it's looking at where do we dim our self-love? Where do we forget that we have all the skills necessary in order to move forward? Where is it that we at moments are so content and gratified with what we have, with our status in life, where we can kind of like walk through our garden and really sit in the wonderfulness of all the things that we've acquired and achieved in this lifetime. And then there's other moments where we absolutely forget, and we almost are like so deeply lonely and so affected by the fact that we're just striving. And so very much in some ways the whole reading, this is bottom of the deck, is looking at moving away from the scarcity thinking, whether this be ancestral or our own. So it really begins with stepping away from this self-harm, ultimately, where we continue to afflict ourselves with perhaps the harm that others have put on us. And so it asks us to really kind of explore how we walk towards the things we want, but also walk away from them, self-sabotage. Asking us to look at, perhaps the ways we avoid conflict, the ways we avoid going after the things we deeply love, asking us to be courageous and step into, the opportunities that lie ahead, to go to see perhaps the ways in which we don't go after what we want. Maybe we do actually settle for the spilt milk, where we go too far within, that we actually sabotage this love and remembering that we are good enough as we are, and instead perhaps doing the same thing here, where we question not only what we want, but we question who we are. So it's asking us, can you stop? Can you actually be full of love? Can you actually see yourself as you are, instead of seeing yourself always through the lens of others? So just want to see what some advice is there for this collective. Look at where perhaps the wish is unfulfilled as it pertains to love. Are we perhaps scared to rely on our own community? Are we thinking that we have to do this super Aries style where it's, light it all afire, do it on our own, be the strategic military kind of commander? Can we in fact see instead that this is the things that we don't want are in fact a step closer to the things that we do want? And that to know that we can't do this alone, but it does require action. Best wishes. Peace.